Excuse me, sir, your voice is not audible. I think it is muted.
So this example, this is the example that I was talking about in the last lecture. Okay, I think few portions of my lecture muted. Okay, no problem. I'm starting from the beginning. So what I have just said that we have discussed about the properties of hypothesis in the last class. First property is that it can be tested. This means it is verifiable or falsifiable. Means either it may be prove true or it may be prove false. Okay, but it should be tested. Means tested either positive or negative or whatever it is, whatever the outcome. Okay, then second thing is that it is not moral or ethical questions. Then it is neither too specific nor too general. It is a prediction of consequences. It considered valuable even if proven false. Now, at the end of the last class, I told you about an example, and this is that example that I was talking about. So all of you read this example, or you can take a screenshot, of course. So what this example says that, suppose, imagine the following situation. You are a nutritionist working in a zoo, and one of your responsibilities is to develop a menu plan for the group of monkeys. In order to get all the vitamins they need, the monkeys have to be given fresh leaves as part of their diet. Choices you considered include leaves of these following species: A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, so this 5 species. You know that in the wild, the monkeys eat mainly bee leaves, but you suspect that this could be because they are safe whilst feeding in bee trees, whereas eating any of the other species would make them vulnerable to predation. So bee is safe. What it means that bee is safe. You design an experiment to find out which type of leaf the monkey actually likes the best. So your experiment is to find out what type, means which particular type among this A, B, C, D, E, F. Oh, sorry, F is not there, E is there. Which one the monkeys actually like the best. You have noticed that in the wild, monkeys prefer B because it is safe. Is there any other reason? So you offer the monkeys all the 5 types of leaves in equal quantities and see what they eat. There are many different experimental hypotheses you could formulate for the monkey study. See, this one is purely based on the experiment, right? So this comes under, or this falls under experimental hypothesis. So आपने वो 5 different types का leaves monkey को दिया and you observe किया कि किसको वो ज़्यादा prefer कर रहा है, which one that monkey is preferring the most. Now when suppose एक hypothesis ऐसा आप formulate कर रहे हो, when offered all 5 types of leaves, the monkeys will preferentially feed on bee leaves. Now, this statement satisfies both criteria for experimental hypothesis. It is a prediction. It predicts the anticipated outcome of the experiment, right? Then testable. Once you have collected and evaluated your data, that is the observation of what the monkeys eat when all 5 types of leaves are offered, you know whether or not they eat more bee leaves than the other types. So इसमें हम क्या बोल रहे हैं actually? Actually, what we try to prove here. जो एक हमारा hypothesis है, the first hypothesis that we have considered, that when offered all the 5 leaves, the monkey preferentially feed on only on B leaves. Then we have said that this is fulfilling all the criteria of an experimental hypothesis. Then comes the question that what are the criteria for experimental hypothesis? There are two. First is prediction. ये कुछ predict कर रहा है. क्या predict कर रहा है? कि हाँ, ये B जो species है, the species B lives means that live species of course B. This is the species that the monkey is going to prefer the most. Right. This is a prediction. I hope you all know what does it mean by prediction, right? Then testable also. When you have conducted the experiment, you have observed this, not just for one monkey. Remember, obviously we need to we need to base on many data. I mean, data in this case is not just a single monkey I am talking about. You need to consider more monkeys to have a valid, what I can say, valid claim. I should say it as a claim. Okay, because for the single monkey result, you cannot say that this is the exact thing that you are claiming, because the experiment should be probed for more than one. So when you have done this and this is tested, so this criteria that is testable is also fulfilled here, right? So both these criteria, means prediction and testable, is now satisfied with respect to this hypothesis. So this is an example of experimental hypothesis. Now let's come to some incorrect hypothesis example. ठीक है, incorrect hypothesis का एक example लेते हैं. When offered all 5 types of leaves, the monkeys will preferentially eat the type they like best. आप मुझे ये बताओ, if you read this hypothesis, what you have got? Is there any certain thing that you can predict from here? कि monkey किस particular leaves को ज़्यादा like करता है? How could you able to know? Yes or no? This is not certain. This is not clear from this hypothesis. Remember that when I was discussing about the definition of hypothesis, at that time I also said that the definition should be clear and precise. So in this example, when offered all 5 types of leaves, the monkey will preferentially eat the type they like best. It's not clear that what type it likes the best. So this is an example of incorrect hypothesis. यहाँ जो है, this statement certainly sounds predictive. कुछ predict कर रहा है, right? But क्या it is not clear. But it does not satisfy the second criteria. It means there is no way you can test whether it is true once you have the results of your study. Your data will show you whether the monkeys prefers one type of leaf, but not why they prefer it. Okay, so now, can you give me one more example of incorrect hypothesis with respect to this specific example? Okay, you will do it after the class. Not now. You just note down the question. My questions for today's class is that this example, you can even take a screenshot of this. With respect to this example, can you give me one more example of incorrect hypothesis? Incorrect hypothesis, you just got that which may be predictive. Predictive means आप कुछ predict कर पा रहे हो, right? But क्या predict कर रहे हो, कैसे उसको prove करोगे? This means the second property, testable, is not there. It's not fulfilled there. So I hope you have noted down my question. Now, when offered all 5 types of leaves, the monkeys will preferentially eat B leaves because they can eat this safely in their natural habitat. This statement is again problematic because it's the second part, because they can eat this safely in their natural habitat also fails to satisfy the criterion of testability. यहाँ तक तो ठीक था कि it will preferentially eat bees, but इसके बाद जो हमने जोर दिया इसमें, because they can eat this safely in their natural habitat. क्या हमने ये prove किया है अभी तक? Whether we have proved this? No, not yet. So because of this, this hypothesis turns into problematic because testability condition is not or is failed to satisfy here. In their natural habitat, all monkeys that feed in beeches are less vulnerable to predation than monkeys that feed on A, C, D, or E. This is a good example or good experimental hypothesis, but not for the experiment described in the question. क्यों? क्योंकि हमने यहाँ पे एक particular term mention किया क्या? Then that is this one. Can anybody tell me why? Why this is, although this is an good example of experimental hypothesis, but still, with respect to the given question, I cannot say that this is a valid example with respect to the given question. Because did that question mention about the different types of monkeys? No. Yes or no? Because that different types are not mentioned. So this is again one example of good example of experimental hypothesis, but still it is not valid with respect to the given question. Now let's come to the next type, that is question 1. When offered all 5 types of leaves, which type will the monkeys eat preferentially? Now here's a hypothesis है. When you look at this hypothesis itself, you'll get that this is a question. And this question fails to satisfy criteria 1 because it is not predicting anything. Is it predicting something? I hope you are getting my point, what I am discussing. This particular example, is it predicting something? No, because you cannot see any prediction here. When offered all 5 types of leaf, which type will the monkey eat preferentially? So yeah, this is the question, but it fails to criteria number 1. So they are not predictive statements, hence the equation is not a hypothesis. Okay, so I hope this example with these different types I have explained now clear to you. Now let's come to more types of hypothesis, like null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis. This one is important. Alternative hypothesis. Null hypothesis represents a theory that has been put forward either because it is believed to be true or because it is to be used as a basis for one argument, but has not been proved. Definition क्या बोल रहा है? ये जो null hypothesis है, it works like a basis of one particular argument, but it has not been proved. Don't worry, we'll go through some examples of it, then this will be more clear to you. Then alternative hypothesis is a statement of what a hypothesis test is set up to establish. Alternative, from the term itself, it is clear that some alternative or some alternative statement or some, you can say, optional statement is there with respect to a given hypothesis. Okay, like this is the opposite of null hypothesis. only reached if H naught is rejected. H naught indicates null hypothesis. Okay, I have to terminate the class now. But now my question for today's class is just single one question I have asked to all of you. And that question is that, I hope you have already noted down the question, and I'll check all of your answers. And I have seen that you are maintaining 2 WhatsApp group for the same paper. Despite of telling you that many times that you just maintain one, why you are making people confused? I have noted down few names like Ashut, Bhaskar, and Sabikur. They are messaging in that group also that you maintain one group for this particular paper. Otherwise, you make people confused. I'm also confused that what's going on there because of the network problem that may happen, but still don't do that. I'll take care of that in the future classes so that you will not do that. Okay, for this time, it's okay, but next time I'm not going to tell it to you. So be careful, don't message in different groups, maintain only one group. So with this, I'm concluding today's lecture. And I hope I will find your answers before 5 p.m. And do not post your answer after 5 p.m. So 5 p.m. is the threshold limit within which you have to answer the questions that are being asked. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.